The bridge of the UNS Defiance was quiet except for the soft beeping of computers and the heavy breathing of tired crew members. Captain Jake Morrison stood with his hands behind his back, watching the main screen show empty space where enemy ships had been just minutes before. The last of the alien battle cruisers had jumped away into hyperspace, leaving behind only floating pieces of metal and the strange purple glow of their engine trails. Lisa Hayes walked up to stand beside her captain. She held a data pad in her shaking hands, and her uniform was torn at the shoulder from when she had crawled under a damaged console to fix the weapon systems. Her voice was barely above a whisper when she spoke. "Sir, the enemy fleet is gone. All of them. Our sensors show no alien ships within 50 million kilometers of Earth." Jake nodded but did not take his eyes off the screen. He had been fighting this war for 3 years and had never seen the aliens retreat like this. The Zephyrians were known across human space as perfect warriors who never backed down and never showed fear. Their technology was better than anything humans had ever built, and their ships could travel between stars in days instead of months. "How many of our ships are still working?" Jake asked. Lisa looked at her data pad and frowned. 12 ships, out of the 40 we started with this morning. The UNS Courage took heavy damage to her main engines, but she can still fight. The UNS Liberty lost her weapon systems, but her shields are holding. Most of our fleet is badly damaged, but still flying. The numbers should have been worse, much worse. When the Zephyrian invasion fleet had appeared in Earth's solar system 6 hours ago, every military expert had said humanity was finished. The aliens had brought over 200 warships, each one larger and more powerful than anything in the human fleet. Their weapons could punch through human shields like paper, and their own shields could stop the strongest human missiles without even flickering. But something had gone wrong with the aliens' perfect plan. Or maybe something had gone right with humanity's desperate one. "Sir," called out Danny Walsh from the engineering station, "I'm getting some strange readings from the alien wreckage. Their ships aren't built the way we thought they were." Jake walked over to look at Danny's screen. The young engineer had been with the fleet for only 6 months, but he had a gift for understanding how things worked. If Danny said something was strange, it was worth listening to. "What do you mean, Danny?" Danny pointed at the screen showing scans of destroyed alien ships. "Look at this, sir. Every single alien ship has the exact same design. Not just similar, but exactly the same down to the smallest parts. Their weapons are all mounted in the same places. Their shield generators are all the same size and power. Even their life support systems are identical." Lisa moved closer to look at the data. "That's not possible. Different ships need different designs for different jobs. A scout ship should be fast and small. A battleship should be slow and heavily armed. These alien ships are all exactly the same size and shape." "That's what I thought too," Danny said. "But look at the weapon damage patterns on our ships. Every alien ship fired at exactly the same time in exactly the same way. They all targeted our weapon systems first, then our engines, then our command centers. In that exact order, every single time." Jake felt something cold move through his chest. He had been a military man for 20 years and he understood what Danny was saying. The aliens fought like a computer program, following the same steps, over and over again. It was efficient and deadly, but it was also predictable. "Show me the battle recordings from the UNS Phoenix," Jake ordered. The main screen changed to show the view from Captain Greg Mitchell's ship during the height of the battle. The Phoenix had been surrounded by 6 alien cruisers, all firing their purple energy weapons in perfect coordination. But then something interesting happened. Captain Mitchell had done something no military academy would ever teach. Instead of trying to fight all 6 ships at once, he had rammed his damaged ship directly into the nearest alien cruiser at full speed. The collision had destroyed both ships, but it had also broken the aliens' perfect formation. The other 5 ships had stopped firing for almost 30 seconds as if they didn't know what to do when their plan was disrupted. "Run the recording from the UNS Ranger," Jake said. This time the screen showed Captain Beth Stone's ship using her damaged engines to spin in wild circles while firing missiles in every direction. It looked crazy and desperate, but it worked. The alien ships had tried to predict where the Ranger would be next, but Beth's random movements made that impossible. 3 alien ships had collided with each other trying to follow her unpredictable path. And the UNS Striker, Jake added. Captain Nina Rodriguez had turned off her ship's engines completely and let it drift like a piece of debris. When the alien ships came close to investigate, she had fired every weapon her ship had at point-blank range. The aliens had never expected a ship to play dead in the middle of a battle. Jake walked back to his command chair and sat down heavily. The pattern was clear now. Every time a human captain had done something unexpected, something crazy, something that broke the rules of normal space combat, the aliens had been unable to respond properly. They were perfect warriors, but only when their enemy fought the way they expected. "Lisa, get me a communication channel to all surviving ships," Jake ordered. "Channel open, sir." Jake looked at the screen showing the faces of his fellow captains. These men and women had just won a battle that should have been impossible to win. They looked tired and confused, but also proud. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jake began, "we just learned something very important about our enemy. The Zephyrians are not the perfect warriors we thought they were. They're very good at fighting enemies who follow the rules, but they don't know what to do when we break those rules." Captain Alex Turner of the damaged UNS Relentless spoke up. "Sir, are you saying we won because we fought dirty?" "No, Alex, I'm saying we won because we fought like humans. We improvised, we adapted. We did things that made no sense except that they worked. The aliens expect their enemies to be logical and predictable, but humans are neither of those things." The bridge crew was listening now, and Jake could see understanding in their eyes. The aliens had superior technology and better weapons, but they had one weakness that might be enough for humanity to exploit. "Sir," Lisa said quietly, "long-range sensors are detecting something. The alien fleet didn't just retreat. They're running, full speed toward the edge of our solar system." Jake smiled for the first time in months. If the aliens were running, it meant they were afraid. And if they were afraid, it meant humanity had a chance. 3 months after the Great Battle, Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner stepped onto the bridge of the UNS Relentless for the first time as its captain. The ship had been rebuilt with parts taken from destroyed alien vessels, and now it could travel between stars faster than any human ship ever built before. Alex looked at the strange purple glow of the new engines and wondered if humanity was ready for what they might find out there in the darkness. "All systems ready, sir," reported Chief Engineer Carol Adams from her station. "The alien drive is working perfectly. We can reach the Kepler 442 system in 3 days instead of 3 months. Alex nodded and settled into the captain's chair. The Relentless was leading the first human expedition into space that had once belonged to the aliens. Their mission was simple: find out where the Zephyrians had gone and what they were doing. Earth's leaders wanted to know if the aliens were preparing for another attack or if they were really as afraid as they seemed to be. "Take us to hyperspace, Carol," Alex ordered. The ship shuddered slightly as reality bent around them. Through the main screen, Alex watched the stars stretch into long white lines before disappearing completely. They were traveling faster than light now, crossing distances that would have taken human ships years to cover. It felt like cheating, using the enemy's own technology against them. When they dropped back into normal space near Kepler 442, Alex was surprised by what they found. The system was full of planets and space stations, but none of them showed any signs of life. The alien colonies that should have been bustling with activity were completely empty. "I'm reading massive power sources on the 4th planet," reported Lieutenant Danny Walsh from the sensor station. "But no alien ships and no alien communication signals." "Take us in closer," Alex said. As they approached the planet, the scope of what they found became clear. Entire cities had been abandoned. Factories were still running, but with no one to operate them. Ships sat in spaceports with their cargo still being loaded by automatic machines. It looked like everyone had simply vanished in the middle of their daily lives. "Sir, I'm detecting human-readable text in some of the computer systems," Danny said with excitement. "The aliens left their computers running when they evacuated. I think I can access their databases." Alex felt his heart beat faster. If they could read the alien computers, they might learn everything about their former enemies. "Do it, but be careful. We don't know if they left any traps." It took Danny 2 hours to break through the alien security systems, but what he found inside made everyone on the bridge stop talking. The computers contained detailed records of the aliens' evacuation plans, and the information was disturbing. Sir, according to these files, the Zephyrians evacuated this entire system in less than 2 weeks after their defeat at Earth. They took only essential supplies and left everything else behind. But here's the strange part. They sent warning messages to all their other colonies telling them to evacuate too. Alex leaned forward in his chair. Warning messages about what? About humans, sir. The messages describe us as an extremely dangerous species that should never be engaged in combat. They're telling their people to abandon any system that humans might reach. The bridge was quiet as everyone absorbed this information. The aliens weren't just retreating from Earth. They were retreating from humanity itself. There's more, sir, Danny continued. I found their star charts showing evacuation routes. Every alien colony within 100 light-years of Earth has been abandoned or is in the process of being evacuated. They're moving their entire civilization away from us. Carol Adams looked up from her engineering station. Sir, if they're evacuating that many systems, where are they all going? Danny worked at his console for several more minutes before answering. The charts show them moving toward the galactic core. There's a cluster of systems about 500 light-years from Earth where they seem to be gathering their forces. Alex stood up and walked to the main screen showing the abandoned alien city below them. He had expected to find the aliens preparing for another attack or maybe licking their wounds after their defeat. He had not expected to find them running away like frightened children. Danny, copy everything from their computers. Carol, I want a full scan of this system. If the aliens left anything behind that might be useful, I want to know about it. For the next week, the Relentless explored the abandoned Kepler 442 system. What they found painted a picture of an alien civilization in complete panic. Personal belongings had been left behind in living areas. Food was still in storage areas, rotting, because no one was there to eat it. Weapon factories had been shut down so quickly that half-finished missiles were still on the assembly lines. But the most interesting discovery came from Danny's continued examination of the alien computers. He found personal messages between alien civilians, and when the ship's translation computer finally decoded them, the content was shocking. Sir, you need to hear this, Danny said. This is a message from an alien parent to their child who was serving in their military. It was sent 3 days after the battle at Earth. Danny played the translated message through the bridge speakers. The alien's voice was high-pitched and musical, but the fear in it was unmistakable. My child, terrible news has reached us from the human homeworld. The invasion fleet has been destroyed, and the survivors speak of horrors beyond imagination. They say the humans fight without honor, without logic, without any regard for their own lives. They say human warriors will sacrifice their own ships just to damage the enemy, and that human commanders make decisions that no rational being could predict. The military command has ordered all civilians to evacuate any system within reach of human ships. We are leaving tomorrow for the core worlds. Do not try to follow us to the frontier colonies. The humans are coming and nothing can stop them. When the message ended, the bridge was silent for a long time. Finally, Alex spoke. They're not just afraid of our weapons or our ships. They're afraid of us, of the way we think and fight. Carol nodded slowly. Sir, we need to report this to Earth. Command immediately. If the aliens are this scared of us, maybe we should be chasing them instead of waiting for them to attack again. Alex looked at the star charts showing the aliens' evacuation routes. The Zephyrians had spent centuries conquering other species and building their empire. Now they were abandoning everything they had built just to get away from humanity. Set course for Earth, Alex ordered. It's time to tell our leaders that the hunt has already begun. Commander Bethstone had never expected to become humanity's first ambassador to an alien species, but that was exactly what happened when her ship, the UNS Pioneer, arrived at the Vega system 6 months after the Great Chase began. The system was full of activity, but none of it was Zephyrian. Instead, her sensors detected dozens of ships belonging to a completely different alien race. Unknown vessels. This is Commander Stone of the human ship Pioneer. She broadcast on all frequencies. We come in peace and request permission to enter your system. The response came quickly. But it was not what she expected. The alien voice was deep and rumbling, like rocks grinding together, and it spoke perfect English. "Human ship, you are. Welcome in Vega System. I am War Leader SS Keth of the Draknari people. We have been waiting for you to arrive." Beth looked at her crew with surprise. How did these aliens know English, and why were they expecting humans to show up? She decided to find out. "War Leader Sisketh, this is our first contact with your people. How do you know our language?" "We learned it from Zephyrian computers they left behind when they fled your approach. We know of your great victory over the oppressors. We wish to speak with you face to face." 2 hours later, Beth found herself sitting across a table from the largest reptilian creature she had ever seen. War Leader Sisketh was 3 meters tall with green scales, yellow eyes, and teeth like knives, but when he spoke, his voice was calm and respectful. "Commander Stone, my people have suffered under Zephyrian rule for over 200 years. They took our worlds, enslaved our workers, and forced us to build weapons for their armies. But 3 months ago, they suddenly abandoned all their bases in our territory and fled toward the galactic center." Beth leaned forward. "Do you know why they left?" Sisketh made a sound that might have been laughter. "They left because they heard that humans were coming. The Zephyrian commanders told their soldiers that your species was too dangerous to fight. They said humans were unpredictable warriors who would rather die than surrender." "We're not looking for a fight with anyone," Beth said. "We just want to make sure the Zephyrians don't come back to attack Earth." "That is good," Sisketh replied. "But you should know that the Zephyrians have been the terror of this galaxy for 1,000 years. They have conquered or enslaved dozens of species across hundreds of star systems. Your victory at Earth was the first time anyone has ever defeated them in open battle." Over the next few days, Beth learned more about the galactic situation than Earth's leaders had ever imagined possible. The Zephyrians were not just another alien species. They were a galactic empire that had been expanding for centuries, crushing every other civilization they encountered. But now, for the first time in their history, they were running away. "War Leader, if the Zephyrians controlled so many systems, where are all the other alien species now?" Beth asked. Sisketh gestured to the star charts on the table between them. Many species were completely destroyed. Others, like my people, survived as slaves. But some managed to hide in remote systems, or in places the Zephyrians thought were not worth conquering. Now that the oppressors have fled, these species are coming out of hiding. As if to prove his point, Beth's communication officer reported that ships from 3 different alien species had entered the Vega system in the past hour. All of them wanted to meet the humans who had driven away their common enemy. The next week was unlike anything in human history. Beth met with representatives of species she had never imagined could exist. The Maltari looked like giant insects but spoke with wisdom that came from centuries of hiding from Zephyrian hunters. The Ethereals were beings made of gas and energy, who communicated through changes in color and temperature. The Resonants were crystalline creatures whose bodies rang like bells when they moved. Each species had the same story. They had suffered under Zephyrian rule, or had spent generations hiding from Zephyrian expansion. Now they all wanted to know the same thing. What did humans plan to do next? "Commander Stone," said Elder Zach Thule of the Maltari through a translation device, "our species have waited centuries for someone strong enough to challenge the Zephyrian Empire. We offer our knowledge and our ships to help you hunt them down." Beth was overwhelmed. When she had left Earth, her mission had been simple reconnaissance. Now she was being offered the chance to lead an interstellar coalition against humanity's former attackers. "I need to contact Earth Command," she told the assembled aliens. "This decision is too big for me to make alone." The response from Earth came within hours. Admiral Richard Kane's message was short and direct. "Commander Stone, you are authorized to accept any reasonable alliance that will help protect Earth and eliminate the Zephyrian threat. Use your best judgment." With Earth's blessing, Beth began building something that had never existed before in galactic history. A voluntary alliance of different species working together against a common enemy. The Draknari offered their powerful warships and knowledge of Zephyrian military tactics. The Maltari provided intelligence networks that stretched across dozens of star systems. The ethereals shared technology that could improve human sensors and communication systems. But the most valuable contribution came from the resonance. Their crystalline bodies could store and process vast amounts of information, and they had been secretly recording everything the Zephyrians had done for the past 300 years. The information we have collected shows the location of every Zephyrian military base, every supply depot, and every route they use to move between star systems, sang Crystal Singer Harmony of Truth in her bell-like voice. We give this freely to the humans who have brought hope back to the galaxy. As more alien species joined the coalition, Beth realized that humanity's chase across the stars had become something much larger than revenge. It had become a liberation campaign that was freeing an entire galaxy from centuries of oppression. Captain Greg Mitchell arrived with a fleet of 12 human ships to find Beth commanding an alliance of over 40 vessels from 8 different species. He looked at the mixed fleet with amazement. Beth, when we started chasing the Zephyrians, I thought we were just making sure they couldn't attack Earth again. I didn't know we were going to end up leading a galactic revolution. Beth smiled as she looked at the diverse fleet surrounding them. Neither did I, Greg, but it seems like the galaxy was waiting for someone to stand up to the Zephyrians. We just happened to be the ones crazy enough to do it. The hunt was becoming something bigger than anyone had expected. Fleet Admiral Kevin Murphy stood on the bridge of the UNS Defiance and looked at the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. 18 months of chasing the Zephyrians across the stars had brought them to this moment. Before them lay the Zephy's Prime System, the ancient homeland of the alien empire that had terrorized the galaxy for 1,000 years. Admiral, final count shows 347 ships from 32 different species, reported Captain Amy Roberts from the communications station. The Draknari battle fleet arrived this morning, and the Maltari intelligence ships took position around the outer planets an hour ago. Kevin nodded as he studied the tactical display. The combined fleet was spread across the entire star system, surrounding the Zephyrian homeworlds like a net. After months of running and hiding, the aliens had finally been cornered in the one place they could not abandon, their birth world. "What about the Zephyrian fleet?" Kevin asked. Captain Sam Clark, who had been monitoring enemy movements, looked grim. "Sir, they have approximately 150 ships defending the system. Their vessels are arranged in a defensive formation around the main planet. But Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from their flagship." Kevin straightened in his chair. "Put it through." The main screen flickered and showed the face of an alien that Kevin recognized from intelligence files. Supreme Commander Veltharn was the leader of the entire Zephyrian Empire, and he looked nothing like the confident conqueror described in the reports. His purple skin was pale, his large black eyes were filled with fear, and his voice shook when he spoke. "Admiral Murphy of the human fleet, I am Supreme Commander Veltharn. I wish to discuss terms for our surrender." A murmur of surprise ran through the bridge crew. Kevin had expected the Zephyrians to fight to the death before admitting defeat. He had not expected their supreme leader to offer surrender before the battle even began. "Commander Veltharn, I am listening," Kevin replied. The alien leader seemed to gather his courage before continuing. "We know we cannot defeat your coalition. Our intelligence reports show that every species we have ever conquered has joined your alliance. We offer you complete access to our technology, all our accumulated wealth from 1,000 years of expansion, and our agreement to remain in exile on distant worlds if you will allow our people to survive." Kevin looked around at his officers. The offer was tempting. With Zephyrian technology, humanity could become the most advanced species in the galaxy overnight. Their wealth could fund human expansion for centuries. But something about the aliens' desperate plea bothered him. "Commander Veltharn, your people attacked Earth without warning and tried to exterminate the human race. You have enslaved dozens of species and destroyed entire civilizations. Why should we trust any agreement you make?" The alien's eyes grew even wider with fear. "Because we know what your species is capable of, Admiral Murphy. We have studied your history. We know that humans are the only species in the galaxy that will chase their enemies across interstellar distances without ever giving up. We know that you will hunt us to the edge of the universe if necessary. We surrender because we know that running from humans is impossible." Before Kevin could respond, another voice cut through the communication channel. War Leader Sis Keth of the Dreknari spoke from his flagship. "Supreme Commander Veltharn, my people remember what your soldiers did to our children on the mining worlds of Kepler 186. We remember how you used our workers as slaves until they died of exhaustion. Do you think we will simply let you disappear into the darkness?" Elder Zakthul of the Maltari added her voice to the conversation. "The Zephyrians destroyed our sacred breeding grounds on Proxima 7 just to build a weapons factory. They killed millions of our young for their convenience. There can be no exile for such crimes." Soon the communication channel was filled with voices from dozens of species, all recounting centuries of Zephyrian atrocities. Each alien race had suffered under the Empire's rule, and none of them were willing to let their oppressors simply fly away to hide in distant systems. Kevin listened to the testimonies and realized that this moment was about more than just humanity's revenge against the species that had attacked Earth. This was about justice for an entire galaxy that had suffered under Zephyrian tyranny. "All ships, this is Admiral Murphy," he broadcast on the fleet command frequency. "I am calling for a conference of all coalition leaders. We need to decide together how to handle this situation." 2 hours later, representatives from 32 different species gathered in the main conference room of the UNS Defiance. The meeting was unlike anything that had ever happened in galactic history. Species that had been enemies for centuries sat side by side, united by their common hatred of the Zephyrians and their respect for the humans who had made this moment possible. Crystal Singer Harmony of Truth of the Resonance spoke first. "Admiral Murphy, we propose that the Zephyrians face trial for their crimes, not just their recent attack on Earth, but their 1,000 years of conquest and destruction." Captain Nina Rodriguez, representing Earth's interests, looked around the room. "A trial would be unprecedented. We would need to create an entirely new form of galactic justice." War Leader Sis Keth slammed his clawed hand on the table. "Then we create it. The humans have already shown us that impossible things can happen when different species work together. Why not create the galaxy's first interstellar court?" The debate continued for hours, but gradually a consensus emerged. The Zephyrians would not be allowed to simply surrender and disappear. They would face justice for their crimes, but it would be justice administered by all their victims working together. Elder Zakthul proposed the structure. "We build a tribunal with representatives from every species the Zephyrians have wronged. We present evidence of their crimes spanning the centuries. We let the galaxy see that tyranny will no longer be tolerated." As the meeting concluded, Kevin realized that humanity's 18-month chase across the stars had accomplished something far greater than anyone had imagined. They had not just defeated a galactic empire, they had created the foundation for a new form of interstellar civilization, based on cooperation and justice instead of conquest and fear. "All ships," Kevin announced over the fleet communication system. "We will establish a neutral station at the edge of this system. The Galactic Tribunal will convene in 1 week. For the first time in galactic history, an empire will face organized justice for its crimes." Supreme Commander Veltharn's final transmission was barely a whisper. "We understand, Admiral Murphy. We will submit to your tribunal." The hunt was almost over, but the real work of building a better galaxy was about to begin. Judge Patricia Cole had never imagined that her career as a military lawyer would lead her to preside over the first interstellar war crimes tribunal in galactic history. The neutral station constructed at the edge of the Zephyr system was larger than most cities, with courtrooms designed to accommodate representatives from dozens of different alien species. Today, after 2 years of preparation, the trial of the Zephyrian Empire would finally begin. Patricia looked out at the packed courtroom from her position at the judge's bench. In the defendants section sat Supreme Commander Veltharn and 23 other high-ranking Zephyrian officials. Their purple skin had grown even paler during their months of confinement, and their large black eyes darted nervously around the room filled with their former victims. The prosecution team was unlike anything ever assembled before. Lieutenant Mark Davis represented humanity's interests, but he was joined by advocates from every species the Zephyrians had wronged over the centuries. War leader Essis Keth spoke for the enslaved Draknari. Elder Zak Thul represented the hidden Maltari. Crystal singer Harmony of Truth sang the grievances of the resonance. 32 different species had sent representatives to ensure that every crime would be documented and presented to the galaxy. "This tribunal is now in session," Patricia announced, her voice carrying clearly through the translation devices that allowed every species to understand the proceedings. "We are here to examine the actions of the Zephyrian Empire over the past 1,000 years, and to determine what justice requires." Lieutenant Mark Davis stood to present the opening argument for the prosecution. He was young for such an important role, but he had been chosen because he possessed something rare among military lawyers: the ability to speak clearly and simply about complex matters. "Your Honor, members of the tribunal, representatives of the galactic community," Mark began. "For 1,000 years the Zephyrian Empire has spread across the galaxy like a plague. They have conquered peaceful worlds, enslaved entire species, and destroyed civilizations that took millions of years to develop. Today, we present evidence of systematic cruelty that spans centuries and affects billions of lives." The first witness was Dr. Jennifer Ross, a human xenobiologist who had spent months examining abandoned Zephyrian facilities. Her testimony painted a picture of industrial-scale oppression that was breathtaking in its scope and cruelty. "Your Honor, we found evidence on 47 different worlds of what the Zephyrians called efficiency farms. These were facilities where enslaved aliens were worked to death producing materials for the Empire. When workers became too weak to continue, they were simply disposed of and replaced. Our conservative estimate is that over 2 billion sentient beings died in these facilities over the past 500 years. War leader Essis Keth testified about the destruction of Draknari culture and the forced separation of families. Elder Zak Thul described how Zephyrian hunters had tracked down Maltari refugees across multiple star systems, destroying entire colonies just to prevent them from finding safety. Crystal singer Harmony of Truth sang a memorial song that contained the names of every resonant who had been shattered by Zephyrian mining operations on their crystal homeworlds. Day after day, the evidence accumulated. Captain Sam Clark presented intercepted communications showing that Zephyrian commanders had deliberately targeted civilian populations to break the will of resistance movements. Engineer Danny Walsh testified about weapons designed specifically to cause maximum suffering rather than quick death. Dr. Carol Adams described biological weapons that had been used to sterilize entire planets that the Zephyrians wanted to colonize, but perhaps the most damaging testimony came from the Zephyrians themselves. When presented with their own military records, many of the defendants confirmed the prosecution's claims. Supreme Commander Vel Tharn admitted that the Empire's expansion policy had always prioritized conquest over coexistence. "Your Honor, we believed that our superior technology and military organization gave us the right to rule over lesser species," Vel Tharn said during his testimony. "We saw other civilizations as resources to be harvested, not as equals to be respected. This was the foundation of our empire for 1,000 years." The defense team, led by Zephyrian advocates who had requested to represent their own people, argued that their clients were products of a military culture that had existed for centuries before any of them were born. They claimed that individual Zephyrians could not be held responsible for the actions of an entire civilization, but this argument collapsed when crystal singer Harmony of Truth presented recordings that the resonance had been secretly making for 300 years. The recording showed individual Zephyrian commanders making deliberate choices to commit atrocities, even when less cruel options were available. After 6 months of testimony, Patricia faced the most difficult decision of her career. The evidence clearly showed that the Zephyrian Empire had committed crimes against sentient life on a scale that was almost impossible to comprehend. But what punishment could possibly fit such massive crimes? The prosecution asked for the complete dissolution of the Zephyrian Empire and the exile of all its leaders to uninhabited worlds. Many of the victim species wanted harsher penalties, including execution for the worst offenders. But as Patricia considered the evidence, She realized that this case was about more than punishment. It was about establishing principles that would guide galactic civilization for centuries to come. After careful consideration of all evidence and testimony, Patricia announced on the final day of the trial, "This tribunal finds the defendants guilty of systematic crimes against sentient life spanning multiple centuries and affecting billions of innocent beings." The courtroom was completely silent as she continued. However, this tribunal was not created merely to punish the past. It was created to build a foundation for a better future. Therefore, the sentence of this court is as follows. The Zephyrian Empire is hereby dissolved. All conquered territories will be returned to their original inhabitants or established as independent worlds. The defendants will spend the remainder of their lives working to rebuild what their empire destroyed, under the supervision of their former victims. Supreme Commander Vel Tharn looked up in surprise. "Your Honor, you are not ordering our execution?" Patricia looked at the alien leader with something that might have been compassion. "Commander Vel Tharn, this tribunal represents something new in galactic history. We choose to show that justice can be more powerful than revenge, and that even the worst crimes can be answered with the possibility of redemption." War Leader Essisis Keth stood up from the prosecution table. "Your Honor, does this mean the Zephyrians will be given a chance to make amends for their crimes?" "Yes," Patricia replied. "They will spend their lives helping to repair the damage they have caused. It will take centuries, but perhaps their children and grandchildren will learn to build instead of destroy." As the trial concluded, and representatives from dozens of species began planning the new galactic alliance, Captain Jake Morrison of the UNS Defiance reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. 2 years ago, humanity had been fighting for survival against an alien invasion. Now they were helping to establish the first interstellar government based on cooperation and justice. The chase across the stars was finally over, but the work of building a better galaxy had just begun.